Nice Speech Lady. Useful resources for medical SLPs. Created by one who is just like you out in the field. Creative, practical, evidence-based resources. Building up, learning from one another.
Welcome to the Nice Speech Lady Show. My name is Wilson Nice, and I'm a speech pathologist, and I'm the owner of nicespeechlady.com. I would like to personally invite you to check out my website. I have a host of resources that I've created, along with a blog and other information and links to other places on the internet where you can find out great information for speech pathologists. Today, we've got a great show devoted to telepractice. The person I'm interviewing is Marissa Rocheleau. She's a telepractitioner and business owner. She also has a subscription service that she created called Telepractice Connect that she'll be talking about. But before we jump into that interview, I'd like to take a moment to hop on to nicespeechlady.com. If you go to where I have posts that I periodically publish on the site, and you go to December 25th, 2020, I published a compilation of helpful resources specifically devoted to telepractice. So here we have my link to the part of the site that has information devoted to telepractice. So some of these links are subscription services. Some of these links are related to evaluations. Some of these links are more for pediatrics and some are more for adults. Some are videos and some are webinars. So please check out all of these resources. This was the most helpful information I could find online currently regarding telepractice. So please check that out. And what we'll do now is we'll take a moment to hear from one of nicespeechlady.com's sponsors.
Hi, this is Walt Fritz from Foundations in Manual Therapy Seminars. I want to take a moment here to introduce you to my products, to my seminars, whether it's the online Voice and Swallowing Disorders course, which is an 8-hour online hands-on course that completely follows the 14.5-hour live course that I teach around the country and internationally, but also that live class, as well as a new class that I've got starting this year designed for the speech pathologist, voice professional, massage, physical therapist, etc., who's working with voice disorders, swallowing disorders, issues of breathing, mouth, tongue, etc. It's a pretty comprehensive set of courses that I've got to take even the novice clinician who's interested in adding manual therapy as a means of evaluation and intervention to their practice. And like I said, I've got the online course, I've got the live course that's starting up next month, and hopefully COVID allow us to continue it throughout the rest of the year and beyond. You can find information for all of this, the online as well as the live classes, at waltfritz.com. And if you use the discount code, I think it's Nice Speech Lady, for Wilson's lovely platform here, you'll get a 10% off discount on either the live class or the online class. Any questions? Let me know at waltfritz.com.
Next, we'll transition to the interview portion of the program. All right, our guest today is Marissa Rocheleau, MACCCSLP. She's the owner of Lingua Abilities, a private telepractice company, and Telepractice Connect, a membership site dedicated to all things telepractice. Marissa received her bachelor's degree from Indiana University in 2010, double majoring in psychology and speech and hearing sciences with a minor in linguistics. In 2012, she completed a master's degree in speech pathology at Indiana University. She's been providing telepractice services since 2014. And when she quickly fell in love with the flexibility and dynamic reach of the service model. She loves working entirely from home with her 3 dogs, Petrie, Bunsen, and Beaker, near Jacksonville, Florida. In her free time, Marissa enjoys crafting, reading, and horror movies. And your websites are www.linguabilities.com and www.telepracticeconnect.com.
Correct.
So welcome, Marissa.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm glad we're having a chance to finally connect on the show. happy to do this today. I've always been so interested in the Telepractice Connect. Can you go ahead and just tell our readers about your membership site?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really the first membership site of its kind. There's a lot of membership sites out there right now, subscription sites. This is really a one-stop shop for all things telepractice. So we have discussion boards, links, downloads like boom cards and worksheets, continuing education that you can submit for CMHs, and then monthly webinars on topics all related to telepractice. And all of that updates every single month. So there's new content coming out all the time. And it's not specifically focused on one discipline. So it's not just for SLPs. I mean, OTs and teachers and doctors, whoever is practicing online or remotely, you're encouraged to join. And the cost is $20 a month, or if you sign up for an annual pass, that's $200. So you can save some money that way. But yeah, we'd love to have you. It's a robust community, and we've got more and more content. We launched in October, so we've got more and more content the longer we're around, but we've got some good stuff now, some really good downloads and links. And like I said, each month there's just more and more stuff. So if you want to learn more, you listed the website, it's telepracticeconnect.com. Go check it out. You can see all the resources that we've got available, little snippets of it and stuff like that.
And the resources are geared toward pediatrics and adults both?
Both. Yep. There's each month it's a little bit different. So I think last month we did like an OT fine motor worksheet, like where you might take Play-Doh and work with the kids to kind of make these little squiggly shapes. And then other times it may not be discipline specific. We did like a handout for families on here are the things that I'd like you to have ready when you come to therapy, that kind of stuff. So we try to make it approachable for the whole range, or it might be a specific thing for a discipline 1 month and it's pediatric OT or it's adult SLP, but we really give everybody a fair shot throughout.
But you have a library of SLP specific materials?
We have some SLP stuff, we have some OT stuff, we have just stuff for like SPED teachers. Yeah, we have a good range of things.
Okay. And tell us about Lingua Abilities.
So that's my private practice company. And I started small with this. I started as a sole practitioner. I was doing in-home visits actually in Chicago back in like 2014. I was taking on some contracts, doing some side work here and there. That's when I started doing telepractice, just getting my feet wet with some contracts. But I was really focusing on doing my private practice in-home sort of thing. I thought that's where I wanted to go with it. Then in 2017, I moved to the Virgin Islands for a whopping 3 months before Hurricane Irma came along and wiped out everything. And so my husband and I left the island. We were evacuated. We left with 2 backpacks and our dog. At the time, we just had Petrie. So we relocated back to the continental US. And I was like, well, shoot, I need to get some work in quickly. And that's kind of where telepractice came into play. So the company really just kind of evolved from there. With it being telepractice, it was much easier to expand and quickly and expand into different subsets of like SPED and healthcare. So starting just as an SLP in-person private practice, now it's morphed into, well, we do telepractice, we don't do any in-person services, but we also do the other range of SPED services like school psychology and social work and school counseling and all that sort of stuff that supports related services and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's really been quite a journey since starting it in 2014. It's my full-time income now. I love it. I love working for myself. I love working from home. It's taken a while to get stable for sure, but I would not do it any other way. No regrets.
So having your feet fully in telepractice, you're I'm sure really invested in the current topics that are going on in telepractice. One of the topics that we decided that we wanted to talk about today was the interstate compact future. Could you get us up to speed on what's going on with that, where we are currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Interstate Compact, if you haven't heard about it, it's also called the ASLP-IC, is an agreement between states for SLPs to have basically one big license between participating states. So right now what we have is not even reciprocity. Like you have to, if you have a license in say Florida and then you want to have a license in North Carolina, you have to apply for your license in North Carolina. And yeah, you can say, I have an existing one in Florida. Can you turn that into an equivalent one in North Carolina? But you're still applying for a different license. You still have to pay the fee. You still have to show that you meet all the requirements and everything like that. It's kind of a pain, right? And it's expensive, time consuming. You still have to do all the continuing education requirements. So it really adds up if you're a telepractitioner and you're trying to maybe do private practice across multiple state lines because you want to market yourself to all these people that are accessing teleservices. So that's what they're trying to get with this interstate compact. They just had a 10th state, which they needed 10 to enact it in order for it to go into effect. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. It just happened like within the past week. So we don't exactly know what the process is going to look like. I'm assuming there's going to be a fee that you pay, which is probably a little bit more than what a regular license fee is per year because you're incorporating all those states. But then it presumably is going to save you a good amount of money in paperwork because you're not applying to all these different ones. Unfortunately, you have to live in a state that has enacted it. So just if you have a license like Texas is one of the states participating. I'm licensed in Texas, but my home state, Florida, is not participating. So I don't qualify. You have to live in one of those enacted states. So right now, the states that have passed legislation are Louisiana, Alabama, North Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Utah. And then there are some pending legislation states, which I would say if you live in these states and you want it to happen, like push your legislators. Those are Washington, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Iowa, Indiana, Georgia, and South Carolina. All the other states have done nothing. So like my role, I think, is to talk to my Florida legislators and say, what gives? Why aren't we supporting this at all? And you can actually go on their website. The website's aslpcompact.com. You can see the map of like who's involved in this. You can see who's supporting it, like ASHA supports it. Audiology organizations outside of ASHA support it. I mean, tons, like universities support it. And I looked and like Florida has nobody, no universities, no like Florida Speech and Hearing Association, nothing. I was like, that's really unfortunate. So I think it's our role as telepractitioners to really push legislators and our organizing bodies to say, we want this as practitioners. And it's something that it's really just the way of the future. Like medical doctors don't have to deal with this nearly as much as we do. I don't know why we do, other than a money grab. That's my best guess. Each legislating body wants a piece of the pie because they get a lot of money from each therapist to do their license, and they want better control. But I would argue that you can still make a decent amount of money through a compact like this, and you can have very good control of your therapists and the regulations and still make it easier for people to practice across state lines. So that's what's up with the compact.
And what would you say SLP should say to their legislators, other than saying, push it through? What would be the talking points that they should say?
Mm-hmm. I would say, so I'm a telepractitioner. I work in other states, or I want to work in other states. Here's why it is too expensive. It's prohibitively expensive. Here's why it's difficult. Here are the things that I go up against. Here's why it would be helpful if we had this compact, why I can provide better services. And you could maybe even tie it into why it would be helpful for the state. That might be specific to your state, but that might be a good selling point for your legislators. Definitely for the organizing bodies, that's a no-brainer. I mean, we know it's just going to be like a best practice thing. It's taking less stress off of your therapists, and it's getting better access to services for clients, potentially reducing costs. So I would think like, the Florida Speech and Hearing Organization, or whatever state body, the level of state organizations, that would be a no-brainer if you wanted to talk to them.
Okay. Is there anything else that speech therapists need to know about the compact that you haven't already mentioned?
The one thing I'm not positive on is how it affects in-person services, because it's really been talked about from a telepractice perspective. So I'd like to know more about if you happen to be traveling. A lot of people want to do like RV work. And so I'd be curious how it impacts that. So if anybody finds that out, please let me know. I mean, we can put my email or my emails on my website. Because I'm just curious how that impacts if you happen to be on vacation, because some people, I'm going to be in California this week, but I still want to see you. So if you're in a different state physically, does that compact still work for you, not just for telepractice? So that might be interesting to find out.
Right. So professional travelers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Those that do it,
yeah.
ongoing.
Those travel contracts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see how things go, and I encourage all the readers to reach out to your organizations and reach out to your legislators, depending on what state you're in. And if you're in a state where you're in the compact, what's the next step for those folks?
Just stay posted on that website, the ASLPIC, and because the 10th state just enacted it, it should be going into effect. So just make sure that it is. Stay posted on your state's licensing board website to see what changes might be happening, and then see what the process is for signing up for it. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure the process is going to be you have to apply separately for the interstate compact license, that interstate license, and to get yourself included in that. That's what I think they're going to do. I don't think it's just going to be an automatic enrollment. I could be wrong. They haven't said how it's going to look yet. So I just keep posted on that website and your state licensing board to see what's going to look like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about being a telepractitioner and marketing. What are you doing to market yourself as an owner?
A number of different things. I started working with a good friend, Mark Parsons. If you've worked with him, he pops up in the Facebook groups a lot. His wife is an SLP, and so then he's got the computer background. So he's a really nice mix, and he's given me a lot of really good advice on things that you can do to tweak your website and things that you want to spend your money on and not. And so in working with him, I've learned a lot about what to do and what not to do in terms of marketing. I've made a lot of mistakes. So I learned that a lot of the big players in marketing are Google Ads, SEO or search engine optimization, social media marketing, and then you've got your old school like referrals and word of mouth. Those still apply. So the talking with doctors' offices and getting good reviews, they can still be really important. But of course, that's also going to depend on your relationship with like taking insurance. So if you take insurance, I think you're going to have an easier time talking with doctors' offices and getting those referrals because they're immediately going to go to the people who take insurance. It's just going to be an easier transition rather than, going, oh, well, here's this person that's private pay. And then the people are like, it's super expensive. It's kind of a bumpy transition. So Google Ads, especially if you are a telepractice business, you have to have an online presence, right? You absolutely have to. It doesn't make any sense. If you just have like a Yelp profile and no website, you're not going to go anywhere. So solid website, make sure you have that. And then when you're looking to market that website to people searching for your services, Google Ads is about the quick win. So you're going to spend more money up front getting clicks to your site for a specific campaign. And you really want to narrow that campaign down to, I'm searching for private practice clients, for pediatrics, for articulation, something like that. So you want to get your niche market, and you can do a lot of research into like what your niche market is, what drives them. So do your market research on that, and there's free resources that can help you figure that out. But I would say that it does help to work with somebody that knows what they're doing, because it's very, very easy to get into Google Ads and just throw buckets of money into it and get no results, because it's a complex algorithm. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what keywords to search for. You don't know how to tweak it. It's just complicated. So I've done it. It's worth talking to somebody who knows what they're doing.
And speaking of payer sources, how did you start out with deciding which insurance companies to get credentialed in?
I don't do insurance. I decided I didn't want to deal with it. It sounded exceedingly complicated, and I did not want that headache. So I know I'm probably missing out on a chunk of the market, but I'd rather not deal with the headache of having to get paid through insurance. So I just take private pay.
Oh, so you're straight private pay.
Straight private pay. We also take school contracts though, so that's a chunk of our income stream, where then we don't have to deal with insurance. I mean, maybe we have Medicaid billing and things like that, but no back and forth with the insurance companies. So different game, depending on how you want to go with it. When neither answer is wrong, it's just different.
Okay.
Then you've got SEO, which is the long game. And that's about improving quality of your links and keyword research to your website so that it naturally comes up the search results in preferably like Google, your search ranking for your niche market. So that again takes working with an expert, and it's definitely worth doing your research on somebody who knows your market as well as SEO. Because if they're just like, oh, I know SEO for business, well, then how are they going to be able to help healthcare or education? Like they have to know a little bit about yours. And so ask really good questions about like, what are their metrics for success? What can they deliver and by when? Because that's definitely another area that you can just easily throw money at and get no results. Then social media marketing is kind of tricky. Some people I've heard have had really good luck with it. Other people, it's just like, again, throwing money at a wall. If you do like Instagram or Facebook ads, and again, it's about getting the right people in your targeted ad. So for example, when I was doing a social media marketing for Telepractice Connect, I had a lot better outcome than any marketing for Linguabilities because of the people who are on Facebook and looking for that content. So I'd recommend, rather than like shotgunning Google ads and SEO and social media marketing, maybe pick one and focus just a little bit on it at first, get your feet wet with it, try it out. Figure out what your budget is, and then what your return on investment might be. Social media, you can also carefully kind of feel out working in parent groups or support groups, being somebody that gives information and also networks your services, but be very careful about that. I'd say like a 10-to-1 ratio of giving versus taking. So if you market your services like 1 time versus 10 of giving advice and talking about other things, otherwise you're going to be a pest and no one wants you in that group anymore. So that's what I'd recommend for marketing.
Okay. Why don't we talk about COVID and now in this stage of the game, some of the clinics and some of the schools are starting to reopen. Where do you see the future of telepractice going with that occurring?
I think it's here to stay, but maybe not in the way that it was prior to reopening or when it was in closures. So since COVID, we've realized just how much we can do remotely, right? We can work from home. We can avoid having snow day closures, which is good, but also a little bit bad. Like I love that we avoid the slide of students regressing when they're absent, especially for a long period of time. But I hate the idea of being on call 24/7. So I think we need to be really careful about balancing ourselves and making those important boundaries so that we don't just turn into like work all the time, school all the time. And I've seen that a little bit as we're starting to transition back to being what I have some brick and mortar schools who are back. And when kids are out, I mean, it's like nothing stops. It keeps going. There's no room for error because now we have this opportunity to do things remotely. So I'm cautious about that. So I think we're in an important position of change with telepractice. And just because we can do telepractice doesn't mean we should. I want to make sure that people are doing it well and that we're making sure that that quality of service is just as good. Just because we like, oh, well, we did it back in March of 2020 and it was okay. Okay is not good enough. We want to make sure it's the same quality as in person would be. And so I don't want to compare like us old school people who were doing it way before to anybody who's done it now to say one's better or the other, but make sure that you're keeping up on your continuing ed, you're investing in the best technology, you're doing your research on liability. So it's not just something that you can jump in and go, oh, that was easy, I can do it. it's not terrible. It's not something that's hard per se, but there's a lot of things to consider to make sure that you're really doing it well. And I worry sometimes that therapists or school districts or clinics don't take all of that into account and then are setting themselves up for future failure because they didn't do their research. So that's just a caveat I would give.
Okay. You mentioned about boundaries and you feel like sometimes that it's school all the time. What are some things that clinicians can do to set those boundaries for making sure that there's that balance?
It's a tough one. It really is. You've got to have good, consistent communication with your team, especially your administrators and your teachers, to say, this is the way that I'm communicating, if it's email, if it's phone, how you're going to make yourself available, but then also to be very open and honest about, like, this is when I'm shutting down. Like, I'm turning off my phone or my email at 5 o'clock. I'll get you tomorrow. And then if you send me an email after that, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to get to it. I'm not checking email on the weekends. I need that break from work. So if you have something immediate that needs my attention, make sure you get to me. And then that kind of holds other people accountable too for last minute things, so that we're not invited to IEP minutes 10 minutes before they're due. And if that means that at the beginning of the week, I've heard of people saying, like, what's on the agenda for this week? Ideally, they should be telling you that like a month ago. But if not, okay, let's do a little bit more proactive communication on our part to make sure that we get those check-ins, so that then they have to tell us before it's a crisis. And then we've got that clear communication. I think those boundaries really help. We just have to be really upfront about it. You can be nice, but upfront.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. So we've already talked about Telepractice Connect. We talked about that at the beginning, but I wanted to circle back to it. Just if you could list for me two benefits and how people can find out more about it.
Sure. The things that I've really enjoyed about it are the monthly webinars that we have, because we get to talk about different topics a little bit more in depth. So some topics we've talked about are like international practice, what you can do to find out more information about that if you're in the US practicing internationally, or vice versa, the licensure and all that. What was another topic that we had? We just, the one coming up this month is on evaluations, learning more about how to do that with confidentiality is not the word. I'm blanking on the word. Copyright. There we go. Copyright infringements that you might get into, and all the resources like Q Global. And because still a lot of people don't know that those are things. They think you just have to do paper-based. Like, no, there's tons of resources. So I like the webinars a lot because you can dive into that, and they're available live if you want to come and ask questions, but then they're also there for recording afterwards. So if you can't catch it live, it's still there. And then I think my second favorite is the downloads, because I love having things that I can access in my big library of stuff. And so if it's a worksheet or it's a boom card set, or, it's a handout that I can give parents, I just like having they feel like freebies, even though I'm paying for the subscription, like it feels like a freebie. So those are probably my two favorite benefits of all the different things that it's providing. I also think it's a nice, camaraderie, where it's people coming together. Yeah, we've got all these Facebook groups where people can talk about telepractice, but one thing I've noticed about them is it's like the same question 15 times. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I get there's always going to be new people. That's what the discussion boards are for, where there's a little bit more organization to those questions. So we have new people coming in who maybe ask that. We've got some vets who can come in and answer it without it being the same question 13 times on Facebook. So if you want to learn more, the Telepractice Connect walks you through some more of those benefits, shows you some examples of things. There is a trial. You can sign up, and it's a free 7-day trial, so you can go and actually see the website, all the resources. If you don't like it, it's okay. It's a 7-day free trial, and then you don't get charged.
I wanted to talk just real quick about telepractice as a business owner versus working for a company that has contracts with schools. And have you worked under a company that has contracts with schools also?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's how I started.
So can you talk to the benefit of what you're doing now versus, working under a company
Hmm.
that has the contract for you?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to both. Right now you get to be your own boss. So you decide who you work with, you set your own hours, you get to make your own schedule, you get to supervise others if you take on contractors or employees. You can make really good money. It's all about making good business decisions. You can also make really bad money, but you can make very good money. Um, and then if you decide to write contracts, if you're not just doing, like outpatient, if you're actually doing like school contracts, then you get to work directly with those clients to write how you want those services to be implemented. So if you're seeing holes in the contracts of what you're doing for contract companies, you can say, that's something that I see that needs to be addressed. When I do it my way, that's going to be done. There's some downsides though. I mean, it can be risky. There's long hours because it's sometimes just you. There's higher taxes, of course, even if you're not running as a business like an S corp. I'd recommend at least doing a sole proprietor LLC, and then you have to make a 1099, right? And so you're just going to be paying higher taxes because you're not a W-2 anymore. You don't have benefits, which maybe you didn't anyway if you were a 1099 on a contract for another company, but you definitely don't have benefits working for yourself. And the income can be kind of rocky at first. Some experts say it takes about 5 years to start pulling a consistent salary from your own business. So you have to have something set up where you either transition maybe like part-time and kind of move to that slowly, or a good savings setup, or know that you're going to take out a loan and you have to pay it back. So things to consider. And all the responsibilities on you. If something goes wrong, that's you got to fix it. If your contractor or your employee messes up, you got to fix it. If the contract doesn't get filled, you got to fix it. So there's lots of good and bad. Like I said, I would not go a different way. I would not do it differently if I had it to do all over again. I think it's worth the risks. I think it's worth the hassle. But I really like working by myself. I really like working from home. If you're somebody that thrives on interacting with other people, not that you couldn't, just maybe like doing an in-person clinic would be a little bit better, where you're running around with other people and you can supervise them that way. But if you have a true remote telepractice company where you don't interact with people as much and you supervise it remotely, that could be a little isolating too.
Mm-hmm. And how many people do you have on your team?
Right now we've got about 15, so we're still pretty small, but we really focus on the lack of turnover. I'd rather have like a small, consistent team rather than like a bunch of people coming in and out,
Mm-hmm. Okay. And tell us about, you run a Facebook group, right?
Yeah, we also have a Facebook group. It's the Telepractice Business Owners, and it's not tied to any paid group or anything. It's free for anybody to come join. There's a couple questions just to make sure that you're not like a weirdo spammer or something, but yeah, anybody can come join. And we're always taking new members. It's really relaxed. I moderate and I try to keep the spam down so it's not people always promoting their own businesses, but you're welcome to, share your stuff if you want advice on, hey, how does my website look? Or how does taxes work for this? Or I'm thinking about getting licensed there. It's really for anybody who's interested in doing similar to what I do. You want to own a business that's specific to telepractice. I mean, that could look a number of different ways. You don't have to take school contracts. You don't have to take insurance. You can or cannot supervise employees or contractors. It's really how you want to make it. And it's not discipline specific. But yeah, we'd love to have you. We have different themes on different days of some questions that we ask. There's like marketing Mondays and Friday brags, just to make it a little fun so people engage. I think I'm going to bring in some new questions too on a different day that get a little more thinking going on some things that people might want to think about for different telepractice business topics. But yeah, we've got a good group. It's great.
Yeah. And I'm a member of that group. So I enjoy the group. let me just ask you, we're about to wrap up the interview. Is there anything else that you think folks need to know about telepractice? Any new other current statements you'd like to make about, what's any other current topics?
I think just keep growing with it. It's a growing field. It changes. So don't feel like, oh, I'm done just because you got your feet wet, especially if you started during COVID. It's an art form, just like any other area of speech or your discipline. So keep learning, keep growing with it, and then you'll be in a good position.
Okay. And tell us again about your subscription service, so we can put the website down at the bottom of the screen for our viewers.
Absolutely. So it's Telepractice Connect. You can find out more at telepracticeconnect.com. $20 a month or $200 a year, and there's a 7-day free trial, so you can try it out, see if you like it.
A 7-day free trial. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know about that. So that's good for our readers to hear about. Check it out to find out about all the resources. And you said that there's a webinar. How frequently?
Once a month.
Once a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, how would they do that?
I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Both Facebook is either Linguabilities or Telepractice Connect. Instagram is Telepractice Connect, or you can just email me info@linguabilities, is LINGU abilities, all one word, .com. Any of those is completely fine to reach out. I'm friendly. I answer questions. So I'd love to talk to you guys.
You absolutely do answer questions, and you are friendly.
Thanks.
Thank you for answering the questions that I've had through the time that we've known each other. And thanks for taking the time to speak with me today in this interview.
Absolutely.
And get us up to speed on the compact and marketing and the future of telepractice with where we are with COVID. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
All right. Thank you. And that's our show today. Thank you for joining us here at Nice Speech Lady. We appreciate your time. And if you would like to contact us for any reason, please go to the website, nicespeechlady.com, and scroll down here to the other resources section where it says contact us. And you can put in your information, and I will receive an email from you. And that's how you can reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns, or need to contact me for any reason. So wanted to thank you again for taking the time to listen to the show today. Please share this video and let others know about the telepractice information that's on this video. Thanks again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.